Everyone laughed at the delivery girl until she humiliated 9 programmers in front of the millionaire CEO and won the prize. Before we begin, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. And when the story ends, don't forget to rate it from 0 to 10. Enjoy the story. Total chaos had taken over Titan Code, one of the most promising tech startups in Silicon Valley. Victor Langston, head of development, was pacing back and forth. An encrypted code, the final part of a high-level security API, was blocking the signing of $1 million contract with the US government. "This is unacceptable," Victor shouted. "We've tested 3 versions and still nothing? Is this Titan Code or an intern training school?" The engineers avoided eye contact. Someone cleared their throat. Another one typed just to look busy. Victor slammed his hand on the table and stared at the team. "Listen up. I'll give my $100,000 bonus to whoever solves this in 2 minutes. That's when the door opened. A girl in a gray hoodie, worn-out sneakers, and a dark cap walked in carrying a bag of coffees. A badge from the local coffee shop hung from her pocket. It said, Kayla. And when she heard about the $100,000, she stopped at the door. Excuse me, coffee for room 12B? She asked. Victor didn't even look. "Just leave it there and close the door on your way out." But curious, Kayla glanced at the giant screen. She frowned and slowly walked to the edge of the table. She looked over the lines of code. Her eyes scanned through the variables, the logic, the repetitions. Something was off, small but obvious, at least to her. "You're really paying $100,000 just for that little thing?" Victor looked at her, annoyed. "Just so you know, this is high-level encryption," Victor said, now irritated. "Can I try?" Silence fell instantly. Victor slowly turned, raising an eyebrow. The others held back their laughter. "Try what?" "Fix it." "The code." Some burst out laughing. As if some delivery girl would know about coding, someone mocked. "This I've got to see," said another, amused. The group chuckled. But Victor, out of pure disdain, stepped aside and motioned to her. 2 minutes. If you pull it off, I'll give you the $100,000, he said, with a challenging grin. "All right, but I want it in cash. I don't like checks." Kayla smiled slightly, dropped the bag on the table, and stepped up to the keyboard. The whole room held its breath. One intern mumbled something. Someone already had their phone out to record the cocky delivery girl who thought she knew code. Kayla didn't hesitate. Her fingers hit the keys with precision. She didn't look at the keyboard, only the screen. Her face showed complete focus. She examined the screen silently, pressed ESC, opened the side console, and whispered, Someone left the key in the wrong drawer. Victor raised an eyebrow. Translation? The pseudo-random generator is inheriting the seed from the compile timestamp. The salt is predictable. She smiled faintly. You just need to align the right offset. Before anyone could follow, Kayla typed a quick sequence, called up an old tool the team had stopped using, and hit enter. The red disappeared. The screen flashed green. Authentication validated. Access granted. The same screen that had seemed impossible for hours now showed the system's final interface. Kayla stepped back, looked around. The 9 engineers were frozen. One of them took off his glasses and wiped the lenses in disbelief. Victor's eyes widened. "Wait, how did you do that?" he asked without his usual sarcasm. "It was just an internal loop forcing a false condition. I flipped it and corrected the variable name. It was misdeclared." She explained naturally. Victor was still trying to process it. "You're sure it's right?" "The screen's unlocked, isn't it?" Embarrassment hit the room like a thunderstorm. The girl from the coffee shop they had mocked had just done what the company's top tier couldn't. Victor rubbed his forehead, speechless. For the first time in a long while, he didn't know what to say. A soft laugh broke the tension. Kayla walked to the door. Before leaving, she turned and added, "Sometimes the problem isn't the lock. It's the key you forgot where you put. Oh, and get my payment ready. I'll be back tomorrow, all right?" And she left, leaving a stunned silence behind. Victor looked at the screen once more. Then at his team. For the first time in a long time, he tasted the bitterness of being outdone by a simple delivery girl. But he also felt something new. Curiosity. The next morning, Victor was still trying to wrap his head around what had happened the day before when he heard a knock at his office door. Before he could answer, the door opened, and Kayla appeared with a radiant smile, holding 2 cups of coffee. "Good morning, boss. I'm here to collect my $100,000, she said, handing him one of the cups. "And I brought a coffee with extra sugar to sweeten your day. I figured you might need it after yesterday." Victor blinked a few times, still trying to process how casually she spoke. The girl's boldness was remarkable. She had walked into his office like she owned the place. No appointment, no formalities. "You actually showed up," he muttered, taking the coffee. "Of course I did. Money doesn't grow on trees, at least not in my neighborhood." Kayla laughed, sitting down in the chair across from his desk without being invited. "I hope you haven't changed your mind. A deal's a deal, right?" Victor scratched his forehead, still skeptical. The whole situation felt surreal. "Before anything else, I need to know, how did you crack that code? Do you have a background in programming?" Kayla took a sip of the coffee and sighed. "Well, since you asked." She settled into the chair. "I was studying computer engineering at Berkeley. I was in my 3rd year when my mom died in a car accident. My little brother Miguel was only 12 at the time. Someone had to take care of him, pay the bills, keep the health insurance." Victor noticed the shift in her tone. She still sounded natural, but there was a seriousness behind her words. "So I dropped out of college," she continued with a shrug. "It wasn't an easy decision, but Miguel needed me. I started doing deliveries because the schedule was flexible and I could be home when he got back from school." "And how did you keep up with the technical knowledge?" "Oh, that's easy," she smiled again. "YouTube University, baby, and some free online courses. Programming doesn't just disappear from your brain because you stop going to class. It's like riding a bike, just with more bugs to fix." Victor found himself smiling. There was something genuine about her that intrigued him deeply. "Impressive," he murmured, opening a drawer in his desk. "What? My life story or my ability to crack impossible codes?" "Both." Victor pulled out a company bag from the drawer and filled it with bundles of cash. Kayla's eyes widened. "You actually have $100,000 in there?" "A promise is a promise," he said, pushing the bag toward her. "But I have an additional proposal." Kayla took the bag, peeked inside quickly, then looked at him with curiosity. "I'm listening." "I want to offer you a temporary position here at the company. Technical assistant, salary matched to your skills." Kayla's response was immediate. "No." Victor blinked, surprised. "No?" "I don't want charity, just respect," she said firmly. "If you're offering me this job out of pity for my story, keep it." "It's not pity," Victor leaned forward. "It's business. You solved in 2 minutes what my team couldn't in days. That has value." Kayla studied him for a few seconds. "Professional treatment? No special favors just because I shared my life story?" "Professional treatment," he confirmed. "And if it doesn't work out, then you go back to delivering coffee and I go back to having headaches over codes." Kayla laughed. "Fair. I accept. But clear boundaries. I work, you pay." "That's it. Perfect. You can start tomorrow." Kayla stood up, still holding the bag of money. "Tomorrow, then? Thank you, Victor, for the opportunity and the $100,000. Miguel is going to freak out when he hears." After Kayla left, Victor stared at the closed door for a few minutes. There was something different about that girl, something that made him want to understand who she really was. Outside the office, word spread like wildfire. Employees whispered in the hallways. Did he really hire the delivery girl? That's ridiculous. What kind of qualifications does she have? I bet she won't last a week. Kayla walked past the groups, ignoring the murmurs, and went down to the lobby, where she called her best friend, Jessica. "Jess, you won't believe what just happened." "Kayla? What time is it? It's still morning." "Remember that code I cracked yesterday? The one for $100,000? That was for real?" "More real than income tax," Kayla laughed. "I'm literally holding the money." "No way, you're kidding." "And there's more. He offered me a job." The silence on the other end of the line lasted a few seconds. "Kayla Marie Thompson, are you telling me that in 24 hours you made $100,000 and landed a tech job?" "That's exactly what I'm telling you. You are completely crazy." Jessica burst out laughing. "Only you could walk into a company as a delivery girl and walk out as an employee." "I know, I still can't believe this is real." The next day, Kayla arrived at Titan Code wearing clean jeans and a simple blouse. She received a temporary badge and was directed to a workstation in the corner of the room. The IT supervisor, a grumpy man named Derek, greeted her with little enthusiasm. "So, you're the new tech assistant," he said, clearly uncomfortable. "Let's start with the basics. Backup checks, cache cleanup, that sort of thing." "Sure," Kayla smiled. "Where do we start?" Derek had her check some backup routines that, according to him, would take the whole day. Kayla finished in 1 hour. While she waited for more tasks, she decided to take a look at the company's internal system. That's when she noticed something strange. There was an inconsistency in the monitoring code that could cause memory leaks. In 15 minutes, she had spotted the issue and written a fix. "Derek," she called out, "I found something you might want to see." "What is it now?" "The monitoring system has a memory leak. Take a look at this," she showed him the screen. "Every time it runs a check, it allocates new memory but doesn't release the old one. In a few weeks, this could crash the server." Derek looked at the screen, then at Kayla, then back at the screen. When did you?" "I just noticed. I already fixed it if you want to take a look." Kayla's solution was elegant and efficient. Derek couldn't hide how impressed he was. From his office, Victor watched through the glass. There was something about that girl that challenged all his expectations. She wasn't just smart, she was different. And the more he observed, the more curious he became. Kayla wasn't just a delivery girl who happened to know how to code. She was something much more intriguing. And Victor was determined to find out exactly what. The following week at Titan Code felt like living under a microscope. Kayla could feel the eyes following her through the hallways, hear the whispers that stopped when she walked by. It was like she had a neon sign flashing "Former Delivery Girl" above her head. "At least they're not throwing paper balls at me," she muttered to herself, adjusting her chair at her workstation. Derek had become slightly more respectful after the memory leak incident, but he still treated her like an anomaly that needed to be watched closely. That Thursday morning, he showed up with a new task. "Kayla, I need you to run a routine check on the main system logs. It's basic, just make sure everything looks normal." "Of course," she said, opening the files. "Anything in particular I should watch for?" "Nothing specific, just anomalies." Kayla dove into the logs like someone reading an interesting book. To her, every line of code told a story, and 3 hours later she found a story she didn't like. "Hey, Derek," she called out, frowning. "Can you take a look at this?" "Did you find something?" "Maybe, or I'm getting paranoid, which is possible, considering half the company still thinks I'm an imposter." Derek walked over to her screen. "What are you seeing?" "Look here." Kayla pointed to a few specific lines. "These access functions, they're being triggered at odd hours. 2 in the morning, 4 a.m. It's like someone's messing with the system when everyone's asleep. Could be scheduled maintenance." "Could be, but look at what these functions actually do." She clicked another tab. "They're not doing maintenance. They're creating backdoors, copying sensitive data, and wait a second." She paused, eyes wide. "This shouldn't be here." "What shouldn't be here?" "These lines of code. They're buried deep inside the main system, disguised as legitimate functions. But in reality, they're sabotaging our servers." Derek turned pale. "Are you sure?" "Absolutely sure. Someone planted a Trojan horse in our system. And judging by how sophisticated it is, this person knows our infrastructure very well. We need to tell Victor. Now." 15 minutes later, Kayla was in Victor's office, explaining her discovery as he looked at the screen with growing concern. "Show me again how you found this," he asked. "Well, I was looking at the logs and noticed that." Kayla began, moving the mouse across the screen. "Here, see? This access sequence at 2 a.m., I followed the trail and there it is. Malicious code disguised as a backup routine." Victor leaned in closer to the screen. So close, Kayla could smell his cologne. "This is sophisticated. And dangerous. If I hadn't caught it, in a few days our servers would have started to crash mysteriously. Important data could have been compromised." "Can you trace where it came from?" Kayla gave him a playful smile. "I was already working on it. Give me a few more hours and I'll find who made this mess." Victor looked at her with a mix of admiration and gratitude. "Do it. And Kayla, thank you. If you hadn't caught this." "Hey, that's what I'm here for, right?" she said, stepping out of the office with renewed confidence. The next few hours were intense. Kayla dove into the code like a detective following clues. Victor came by several times to check on her progress, and little by little, they began working side by side, with Kayla explaining what she was doing and Victor asking thoughtful questions. "Got it," she finally exclaimed at 7 in the evening. The source point. The code was inserted through a developer account that had its access revoked 3 months ago. Brandon Matthews. He was fired for. She checked the HR records. Inappropriate conduct and security policy violations. Victor sighed. Brandon. I should have guessed. He didn't take the firing well. Well, now we can fully block his access and wipe out all the malicious code, Kayla said, her fingers flying across the keyboard. It'll take about an hour to clean everything up. Impressive. You just saved the company from an attack that could have been devastating. For the first time since he met her, Victor looked at her without a trace of sarcasm or suspicion. It was genuine admiration. That's what we do around here, right? Solve impossible problems, Kayla replied with a smile. However, not everyone at the company was happy about Kayla's heroics. Robert Chen, head of information security, was watching the situation with growing irritation. His security team had failed to catch the threat, and now the former delivery girl was being seen as the company's savior. This is embarrassing, he murmured to his assistant. A newcomer finds a security flaw our whole team missed. Maybe she just got lucky, the assistant suggested. Luck doesn't clean up malicious code in an hour. She knows what she's doing. And that worries me. The next morning, Victor showed up at Kayla's desk with an unexpected proposal. We're having a team gathering tonight. It's a monthly tradition. I think it would be good for you to connect with everyone. Kayla raised an eyebrow. Let me guess. A night full of awkward stares and forced conversations about how I came out of nowhere? Probably, Victor laughed. But it'll also be a chance to show you belong here. And after what happened yesterday, I'd say you more than earned that. Kayla thought about it. She knew that avoiding social events would only add to the rumors about her. And honestly, after saving the company from a cyber attack, she felt she had every right to be anywhere in that company. All right, she said at last. But if anyone asks me if I know how to make coffee, I'm not responsible for how I'll react. Fair enough. And Victor? She called as he turned to leave. Yes? Thanks for trusting me yesterday. I know not every boss would let a newcomer mess with the company's main system. Victor smiled. After what you did with that encrypted code, I'd be a fool not to trust your technical judgment. As Victor walked away, Kayla went back to work, but her mind was already on the team event. She knew that tonight would be a test. Not of her technical skills, but of her ability to handle the social waters of a company where she was still seen as an outsider. But after years of delivering coffee to people who barely noticed her, she was ready for any social challenge Titan Code could throw at her. After all, as she used to tell Miguel, the hardest part of any problem wasn't solving it. It was convincing others you could. And that night, she planned to do just that. Kayla spent a full hour in front of the mirror, trying to decide what to wear to the event. Her wardrobe wasn't exactly made for corporate functions. After rejecting 3 outfits, she chose a simple navy blue dress she had bought 2 years ago for Miguel's high school graduation. At least I don't look like I'm delivering pizza, she murmured, adjusting the hem. She arrived at the restaurant where the event was taking place 15 minutes late, hoping to blend into the crowd. It didn't work. The moment she walked in, the conversations noticeably quieted. It was like someone had turned down the volume on the music. Great, nothing like making a subtle entrance, she thought, forcing a smile. Victor spotted her right away and walked over. Kayla, glad you came. I was starting to think you changed your mind. And missed the chance to watch everyone pretend they're not staring at me? Never, she replied, accepting the glass of wine he offered. The evening started just as expected. Some colleagues greeted her with polite formality, while others simply ignored her. Kayla navigated the shallow conversations with humor, turning awkward moments into jokes. When someone commented on her interesting transition from delivery girl to tech assistant, she replied, "That's right. I used to deliver caffeine to keep you all awake. Now I deliver solutions to help you keep your jobs, a natural progression." Her response drew a few genuine laughs and helped break the ice. Derek walked over with his wife, a kind woman named Linda. Linda, this is Kayla, our new tech assistant. The one I told you about who saved our servers. Ah, the famous Kayla, Linda said warmly. Derek won't stop talking about you. He says you're the smartest person he's ever met. Kayla nearly spit out her wine. Really? Derek said that? The same Derek who gave me an instruction manual on how to turn on the computer on my first day? Hey, that was standard protocol. Derek protested, blushing. Of course it was, Kayla laughed, and I'm the Queen of England. The group around them began to liven up with Kayla's contagious energy. She had a natural way of making people feel at ease, even though she was clearly out of her comfort zone. The atmosphere shifted when a well-dressed man with a European accent approached Victor. It was Klaus Richter, a major German investor who was considering a significant investment in Titan Code. Victor, my friend, Klaus said, shaking his hand. I've been thinking about our conversation regarding your system's security architecture. I have a few technical concerns I'd like to discuss. Victor hesitated for a moment. He understood the basic concepts, but Klaus was asking for details that went beyond his management expertise. Well, Klaus, our approach is... Victor began, clearly uncomfortable. Kayla, who had overheard the question, stepped in quietly. Excuse me, she said gently. I couldn't help but hear your question about our security architecture. May I help clarify some technical points? Klaus looked at her with curiosity. And you are? Kayla Thompson, tech assistant, and apparently our resident expert in finding things no one else can see, she said with a smile. Interesting. What's your opinion on implementing end-to-end encryption in distributed systems? Kayla didn't hesitate. The main issue is balancing security and performance. We use a hybrid approach where sensitive data is encrypted locally with AES 256, but the keys are managed through an elliptic curve-based exchange system. That gives us strong encryption without the computational load on every transaction. Klaus raised his eyebrows, impressed. And what about key rotation? We use automatic rotation every 72 hours for session keys and manual rotation every month for master keys. The system is designed so the rotation is invisible to the end user but fully trackable for audits. Fascinating, Klaus murmured. And how do you handle data recovery if the keys are lost? We use a fragmented backup system where no single entity has full access to the recovery keys. Think of it like a vault that needs 3 separate keys to open, and those keys are held by people who don't even know each other. Klaus laughed, delighted by the analogy. Brilliant. That's exactly the kind of practical approach I'm looking for in a company. Victor, you have a brilliant mind on your team. Victor looked at Kayla with genuine pride. Yes, I do. Kayla has been a valuable addition to our team. The conversation continued for a few more minutes, with Klaus asking increasingly technical questions and Kayla answering them with confidence and clarity. When he finally walked away, Victor leaned toward her. Where did you learn all that? YouTube University, remember? She winked. And a few late nights reading technical documentation while Miguel was sleeping. Insomnia can be very educational. The night was going well until Sarah Mitchell, a senior developer known for her sharp remarks, decided to join the group where Kayla was chatting. It's impressive, Sarah said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, how our hacker-turned-delivery girl adjusts so quickly to corporate life. The group fell silent. The tension was immediate. Kayla kept smiling. It's true, Sarah, I do adapt quickly. It's a skill you learn when you have to survive in places where not everyone wants you to succeed. Of course, Sarah replied. Must be nice having special protection from upper management. Before Kayla could respond, Victor appeared beside them. Sarah, he said in a firm voice, Kayla is here because she's exceptionally competent. She saved our company from a cyber attack that our entire security team failed to detect. If that's called special treatment, then I protect any employee who shows that level of skill and dedication. Sarah blushed, clearly not expecting to be confronted in public. Of course, I didn't mean to imply. Of course not, Victor interrupted. Have a good night, Sarah. Sarah quickly stepped away, and the group broke up, leaving Kayla and Victor alone. Thank you, Kayla said quietly. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. Sarah was being unfair, and you didn't deserve that. The party started to wind down, and Victor offered to walk Kayla to the parking lot. They walked in a comfortable silence, the cool night air contrasting with the warm atmosphere of the restaurant. "You were amazing tonight," Victor said as they reached Kayla's car. "The way you handled Klaus, Sarah, the whole situation, you have a strength I really admire." Kayla turned to face him. "Thank you, Victor. Really, I know it must not be easy for you, with everyone questioning your decision to hire me. I don't care what other people think. You've proven your worth over and over again." There was something in the way he looked at her, an intensity that made Kayla's heart beat faster. Victor slowly stepped closer, and before she could react, he kissed her. For a moment, Kayla allowed herself to feel the warmth of the kiss, the connection that had grown between them. But then reality hit, and she gently but firmly pushed him away. "Victor, no. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have." "Don't confuse respect with interest," she said, keeping her voice calm. "I value our professional relationship, but I can't mix things up like that." Victor ran his hand through his hair, clearly embarrassed. "You're right. It was a mistake. I'm sorry, Kayla. It won't happen again. It's okay. Just let's keep things professional, right? Of course. Have a good night." The next morning, Kayla came to work hoping that the night before would just be an awkward memory that would eventually fade away. She was wrong. The whispers started the moment she walked past the reception. Hidden glances followed her through the hallways. It was obvious someone had seen her and Victor leaving the party together. "I heard she and Victor are, one employee whispered to another near the coffee machine. "I always thought there was something strange about how she was hired," the other replied. Kayla sighed. She expected this might happen someday, just not this quickly. Derek walked over to her station with a concerned look. "Kayla, people are talking, saying things, about you and Victor." "What kind of things?" "You know, that maybe your position here is based on things other than technical skills." Kayla felt a mix of anger and frustration. "And what do you think, Derek?" "Me? I think anyone who can save our servers and explain encryption to German investors is here on merit. But not everyone sees it that way." At lunch, Kayla learned that the rumors had reached the board of directors. Robert Chen was using the situation to publicly question her closeness to Victor, suggesting it was a conflict of interest. Sitting alone in the cafeteria, Kayla reflected on her situation. She had worked hard to earn respect, but now everything was being questioned because of one moment of weakness from Victor. She knew she had to prove more than ever that she was there because she deserved it. It wouldn't be easy, especially with Robert Chen clearly planning to use the situation against her. But Kayla Thompson had never backed down from a challenge, and she wasn't about to start now. She finished her sandwich with renewed determination. If people wanted to question her place at Titan Code, she would give them undeniable reasons to keep her around. Monday came with a strange atmosphere at Titan Code. Kayla noticed right away that something had changed when Derek avoided eye contact during the morning tech team meeting. "Sorry, Kayla," he said awkwardly when she asked about the new security project. "This meeting is for senior staff only." "Since when am I not considered part of the team?" she asked, forcing a smile. "Yesterday I was saving the servers, and today what am I? The company mascot?" Derek scratched his neck, clearly uncomfortable. "Orders from above. Robert Chen said for now you should focus on basic tasks." "Basic tasks?" Kayla raised an eyebrow. "Like organizing the code library in alphabetical order?" "Actually, yes." Kayla laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Perfect. I'll organize code like a digital librarian, at least that I can do without any special supervision." For the rest of the week, things only got worse. Kayla was systematically left out of important meetings, her technical suggestions were ignored, and even her system access started getting restricted. On Thursday, when she tried to access the security logs for her routine check, the message "Access Denied" appeared on the screen. "What's going on?" she muttered, trying again. Frustrated, she went to Derek. "My access is blocked. I can't even do a basic log check." "That's strange," Derek frowned. "Let me check with Robert." An hour later, Derek came back looking even more uncomfortable. Robert said there was a review of access levels. Apparently, some privileges were not appropriate for your current role. "Not appropriate?" Kayla crossed her arms. "Derek, I literally saved this company from a cyber attack last week. Now I can't even check if the servers are running? I know, but those are direct orders. That night, Kayla decided it was time to do her own digging. If Robert Chen was playing politics with her access, she was going to find out exactly what was going on. Using her personal developer account and some techniques she had learned back in her student days, she managed to access the system's admin logs. What she found made her furious. Robert had systematically removed her privileges, altered records of her contributions, and worse, he had created fake entries suggesting she had tried to access systems without authorization. "This guy really thinks I'm stupid," she muttered, saving the evidence. Faking logs is one thing, but leaving obvious digital traces, that's amateur work. The next morning, Kayla marched straight into Victor's office with a folder full of printouts. "We need to talk, now." Victor looked up from the documents he was reviewing. He looked tired and stressed. "Kayla, this might not be the best time. The board is being manipulated," she interrupted, dropping the papers onto his desk. "And so are you." "What are you talking about?" "Robert Chen isn't just keeping me out of meetings. He's faking logs to make it look like I'm a security risk." Victor picked up one of the reports and started reading. "These logs show unauthorized access attempts from your account." "Exactly. Logs that were created after the fact. Look at the timestamps, Victor. Some of these unauthorized attempts happened while I was in meetings with you. Unless I've learned how to be in two places at once, these logs are fake." Victor studied the documents more carefully. "How did you prove they're fake?" "Every log entry has a unique hash based on its content and timestamp. If you change the content afterward, the hash doesn't match. That's Computer Science 101. And you can prove that?" Kayla gave him a sharp smile. "Not only can I prove it, I can show exactly when and where those changes were made. Robert isn't as smart as he thinks." Victor stayed silent for a long moment. "This is serious, Kayla. If you're right, I am right. And there's more. He also tried to sabotage some of the project data I worked on, tried to make it look like I was being careless." "Why would he do that?" "Because I made him look incompetent when I found that malicious code his team missed. And now, with all the rumors about us, he saw a chance to get rid of me." Victor stood up from his chair. "I'm calling an emergency meeting with the entire leadership team. Today." 2 hours later, the main conference room was packed. Robert Chen walked in confidently, clearly not expecting that his tricks had been uncovered. "Robert," Victor began without preamble, "we need to talk about some irregularities in the system logs." "What kind of irregularities?" Kayla stood up and connected her laptop to the projector. "The kind that show you faked entries to incriminate me." Kayla's presentation was devastating. She didn't just show the fake entries, she tracked the origin of the changes directly to Robert's admin account. There was undeniable digital evidence. Robert tried to defend himself, but his explanations came off weak and contradictory. When confronted with specific technical proof, he finally went silent. "Robert," Victor said firmly, "you're relieved of your duties, effective immediately. Human Resources will handle your termination." Robert left the room with his face red with anger, but before walking out, he turned to Kayla with a bitter glare. "You're going to regret this." "Probably," Kayla replied calmly, "but at least I'll regret it with my dignity intact." Kayla thought the problem had been solved. She was wrong. The next morning, she woke up to dozens of missed calls on her phone. Jessica, her best friend, was the first person who managed to get through. "Kayla, have you seen the news?" "What news? I haven't even had coffee yet." "Google your name, right now." With her heart racing, Kayla opened her laptop and did the search. What she saw made her sink into her chair. Tech fraud. Titan Code employee has controversial past at university. Plagiarism scandal. The truth about the genius who fooled Silicon Valley. The top article on TechCrunch showed documents from the old disciplinary case she had faced at Berkeley. Someone had leaked detailed information, including statements from professors and classmates. The phone rang. It was Victor. "Kayla, did you see it?" "I did. Robert moves fast when he's angry. The board is in a panic. They want an emergency meeting in an hour." "And are you going to fire me?" There was a pause. "They're demanding it, but I refuse." "Victor, maybe it's for the best." "No. You showed me who you really are. I'm not going to let them destroy your career over something that happened years ago." The board meeting was brutal. One by one, the members demanded Kayla's immediate dismissal. Victor pushed back on all the pressure, defending her and his own decision to keep her at the company. "Gentlemen," he said firmly, "Kayla Thompson saved company from a devastating cyber attack. She exposed internal sabotage. She impressed our most important investors. I won't fire her over rumors and speculation." "Victor," said James Morrison, the chairman of the board, "your personal closeness to this employee is compromising your professional judgment." My closeness? My closeness is based on mutual respect and professional competence. That's not what the reports suggest. The discussion dragged on for hours. In the end, the board voted 5-2 to suspend Victor temporarily from the board while they investigated both Kayla's situation and Victor's leadership. That evening, when Victor arrived at Kayla's apartment to tell her the result, he found her sitting on the couch, staring blankly at the wall. "They suspended you because of me," she said without looking at him. "No, they suspended me because I chose to do the right thing. Maybe I should just leave. It would make things easier for everyone." "You can't give up now." "Why not? My reputation is ruined. Your career is at risk. Maybe Robert was right. Maybe I really don't belong in this world." That's when Miguel came into the room. He had been listening and walked over to his sister. "Kayla," he said, taking her hand, "you've told me this story 1,000 times, about what really happened at the university, about how you were made the scapegoat. Miguel, if you run now, they win. And you taught me that when you're right, you fight until the end." Kayla looked at her brother, then at Victor, then back to Miguel. She took a deep breath. "You're right, it's time to face the past once and for all." The next morning, Kayla woke up to a call from a lawyer named David Martinez. He had seen the news and offered to represent her for free. "Miss Thompson, I believe you have a solid case to clear your name. The university has scheduled a public hearing for this afternoon. This is your chance to tell your side of the story." "Today?" Kayla sat up in bed, still processing the information. "Isn't that kind of fast?" "They want to resolve it quickly, before it becomes an even bigger scandal. The hearing will be broadcast live. The whole country will be watching." "Perfect," she sighed. "Nothing like airing your dirty laundry on national TV. At least I can't complain about the ratings." Kayla spent the next few hours organizing documents she had carefully saved for years. Emails, recorded conversations, handwritten notes, even copies of code she had originally written. Miguel helped her put everything in order. "You really kept all this for 5 years?" he asked, amazed by the amount of evidence. "Mom always said the truth has a way of showing up at the right time. I just didn't know the right time would be on live TV." "Are you nervous?" "Nervous?" Kayla laughed. "I'm terrified, but also relieved. I can finally tell the truth about what really happened." The hearing took place in Berkeley's main auditorium, with cameras from CNN, NBC, and other major networks. Kayla walked in wearing a blazer she'd borrowed from Jessica and carrying a folder full of evidence. The university's dean, Dr. William Harrison, opened the session with a formal statement about the importance of academic integrity. Then he turned the floor over to Kayla. "Miss Thompson, would you like to make an opening statement?" Kayla stepped up to the microphone, took a deep breath, and began. 5 years ago, I was accused of plagiarism in my final computer engineering project. At the time, I was a 20-year-old student who had just lost her mother and was raising my younger brother alone. When the accusations came, I didn't have the means to properly defend myself. Today, I do. She connected her laptop to the presentation system. "I'm going to show you exactly what happened, using evidence I've kept all these years because I knew the truth would come out one day." Kayla's presentation was detailed and powerful. She showed emails from Professor Dr. Richard Steinberg asking her to send code for review, weeks before the final deadline. She presented recordings of conversations where he suggested improvements that were actually code written by other students. Most importantly, she technically demonstrated how her original code had been altered and redistributed. "As you can see in this timestamp," she said, pointing to the screen, "my code was sent to Dr. Steinberg on March 15th. The project he claimed was original was submitted on March 20th. Unless someone invented a time machine, it's physically impossible for me to have copied something that didn't exist yet." The audience murmured, impressed by the clarity of her evidence. Dr. Harrison looked visibly uncomfortable. "Miss Thompson, do you have more evidence to present?" "Yes, I do," Kayla said with a sad smile. "I have emails where Dr. Steinberg admits to using students' work in his personal publications. I have recordings where he pressured me not to contest the accusations, and I have code that proves at least 6 other students were victims of the same scheme." The room fell silent. Kayla continued, "I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for justice. For 5 years, I carried the weight of a false accusation. I lost career opportunities, scholarships, and my confidence, all because one unethical professor decided an orphan student would be the perfect scapegoat." When she finished, the silence in the auditorium was deafening. Then reporters erupted with questions. From his apartment, Victor watched the broadcast with teary eyes. Kayla's courage and dignity were remarkable. She wasn't just clearing her name. She was doing it with a grace that few could maintain under pressure. 3 hours after the hearing, Berkeley published an official statement offering a formal apology to Kayla and announcing a full investigation into Dr. Steinberg's practices. The case made national headlines, with hashtags like #JusticeForKayla trending on Twitter. Jessica called Kayla the moment she left the auditorium. "Girl, you were amazing. Everyone's talking about you, and for once, it's in a good way." "I still can't believe it's over," Kayla said, feeling drained but relieved. "And there's more good news. Victor just got reinstated. The Titan Code board voted him back this morning." Kayla smiled for the first time in days. "That's great. He didn't deserve to be punished for someone else's mistakes." The next morning, Victor returned to Titan Code with renewed determination. His first meeting was with Kayla. "First, I want to apologize for what you've been through," he said as soon as she entered his office. "Second, I want to make some things right." "You don't need to apologize, Victor. You stood up for me when no one else would." "Even so," he said, standing up. "Kayla Thompson, I'd like to officially promote you to Innovation Coordinator at Titan Code, with a matching salary, full benefits, and the authority to lead strategic projects." Kayla blinked, surprised. "That's quite a promotion." "It's the least I can do. You've revolutionized our security, uncovered internal sabotage, and now you're nationally known for your integrity. Any company would be lucky to have you." Kayla hesitated. "Can I set a few conditions?" "Of course. No special treatment just because we're friends. I want to be judged only by my work." "Agreed. And I haven't forgotten that kiss in the parking lot. Let's keep things professional for now." Victor laughed. "Fair enough. Though I have to admit, you're even more impressive now than you were that night." "Flattering. I'll take the promotion." When news of Kayla's promotion spread through the company, the reaction was completely different from the first time. The employees who once treated her with disdain now greeted her with genuine respect. Even Sarah Mitchell came over to apologize for her behavior at the party. "Kayla, I want to apologize for what I said at the event. You've shown that you deserve to be here more than any of us." "Thank you, Sarah. Everyone makes mistakes. What matters is learning from them." Derek stopped by her new office at the end of the day. "Innovation Coordinator," he said, smiling. "Has a nice ring to it, doesn't it?" "Definitely better than former suspicious delivery girl, that's for sure. Kayla, I want you to know I always believed in you, even when things got complicated." "I know, Derek, and I appreciate that." The next morning, Victor knocked on Kayla's office door, holding an official-looking envelope. "I have a proposal for you," he said, walking in and closing the door. "If it's another job title, I might need at least a week to get used to this one." "It's not a position, it's a trip. We've been invited to the Global Conference on Technological Innovation in Paris. It's one of the most prestigious events in the industry." Kayla raised her eyebrows. "Paris? As in France or up Eiffel Tower, Paris?" "Exactly. And I'd like you to come with me as our official technical representative." "Me? But I was just promoted. Wouldn't it make more sense to take someone with more experience?" "Kayla," Victor sat down in the chair across from her desk, "you're the most qualified person we have to represent our company. Your story, your skills, your ability to speak to investors, you're the perfect choice." "When would it be?" "Next week. 3 days in Paris, presenting our innovations to potential investors and international partners." Kayla looked out the window, thinking about how crazy her life had become. A month ago, she was delivering coffee. Now she was being invited to represent one of Silicon Valley's most promising startups in Paris. "Well," she said at last, "I guess it's time to dust off my passport. When do we leave?" "Tomorrow morning," Victor said with a smile. "Great, I'll be ready." The flight to Paris was Kayla's first time flying business class. While Victor worked on his laptop, she entertained herself by testing all the seat's features. "This thing has more buttons than a video game controller," she muttered, trying to figure out the back massage function. "If I press the wrong one, will it launch me out the window?" Victor chuckled without looking up from his computer. "Relax, Kayla. You deserve a little luxury after everything you've been through." "Easy for you to say. You were probably born knowing how to use all this. I was born knowing how to stretch $1 for a whole week." The Global Conference on Technological Innovation took place at an elegant convention center in Paris, overlooking the Seine. Kayla was impressed by the scale of the event, but she didn't let it intimidate her. During her first presentation titled Practical Cybersecurity for Startups, she won over the audience with simple analogies and smart humor. "Implementing digital security is like locking your front door," she told a room full of international executives. "Everyone knows it's important, but most people forget to check if they left the back window open. And that window, in the digital world, is where the trouble usually starts." The presentation was a success. Executives from European and Asian companies came up afterward, interested in both her ideas and her personal story. Hans Muller, the CEO of a German software company, was especially complimentary. "Miss Thompson, your practical approach is exactly what we're looking for. You've turned complex concepts into usable solutions." "Thank you, Mr. Muller. I believe the best technology is the kind people can use without needing a 1,000-page manual." "Impressive. We'll be in touch with Titan Code to discuss potential partnerships." Victor, watching from a distance, felt a deep sense of pride. Kayla wasn't just representing the company well. She was standing out on her own merit. At the gala dinner on the second evening, held at an elegant chateau outside Paris, Kayla found herself seated next to Victor at the main table. "Apparently someone decided we're a team," she said, adjusting the simple black dress she had rushed to buy for the occasion. "Does that bother you? As long as they didn't list us as Mr. and Mrs. Langston, I'm fine." Victor laughed and raised his wine glass. "Here's to our innovation coordinator, who managed to impress half of Europe in just 2 days. And to the person who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself," Kayla said, raising her glass. During dinner, Victor couldn't stop praising her performance. "Kayla, you've completely transformed the culture at Titan Code. Before you came, we were technically strong, but we had no soul. You brought humanity to what we do." "Oh, stop it, Victor. You're going to make me feel too proud and start charging even more," she joked, though there was genuine gratitude in her eyes. "I mean it. You didn't just change the company, you changed the way I see leadership. I've learned more from you in 2 months than in years of business school." Kayla blushed slightly. "Well, considering I learned leadership by raising a stubborn teenager, I suppose it's a transferable skill." After dinner, they left the chateau and walked through the historic streets of Paris. The city looked beautiful under the soft glow of the old street lamps, and for the first time since they met, there was no pressure, no urgency, no crisis to solve. "Paris really is beautiful at night," Kayla said, watching the lights reflect on the Seine. "It is, but I still prefer the view from the Titan Code rooftop at sunset." "Really? Why?" Victor stopped walking and looked at her. "Because that's where I realized I had never trusted anyone as much as I trust you." Kayla felt her heart beat faster, but kept her tone light. "Oh, so it's about memory association. I get it, like how I get nostalgic every time I see a coffee machine." Victor laughed, but there was sincerity in his eyes. "Kayla, you know it's not just that." "I know, but I also know we're in Paris, it's nighttime, and this is exactly the kind of moment when people do romantic and foolish things that later complicate everything." "And you don't want things to get complicated?" Kayla smiled gently. "Not yet. I'm really enjoying how simple everything is right now." They continued walking in a quiet, peaceful silence, enjoying the unique atmosphere of the city. It was the kind of moment one holds on to when everything feels like it's in the right place. Back at the hotel, Kayla said goodnight to Victor in the elevator and went to her room. She was taking off her shoes when her phone buzzed with a message from Miguel. "Kayla, you won't believe it. The International Incubator for Young Programmers accepted me. I'm going to the 6-month program in London. They saw my project online and were impressed." Kayla shouted with joy, alone in the room. "Oh my God, Miguel," she said, calling him right away. "Kayla, I still can't believe it. They're paying for everything, housing, food, and I'll be working with the best young programmers in the world. I'm so proud of you. I knew this moment would come. None of this would have happened if you hadn't taught me how to code when I was a kid, and if you hadn't fought so hard to give me a better life." Kayla felt tears in her eyes. "You did this on your own, Miguel. I just gave you the tools. The talent is all yours." They talked for an hour, planning all the details of Miguel's move to London. When the call ended, Kayla fell back onto the bed, smiling at the ceiling. In just 1 year, her life had changed completely. And now Miguel would have his own chance too. The next morning, while having breakfast at the hotel restaurant, Victor came over looking excited. "Good morning, Global Coordinator of Investor Wins," he said, sitting at her table. "Good morning, boss. You seem excited. Did you win the French lottery?" "Even better. I have a proposal for you. If it's another position, I'm going to start charging a consulting fee for job changes." Victor laughed. "It's not a position, it's a project. Remember when you mentioned wanting to see more diversity in the tech field?" "I remember. Why?" "I want you to lead a new Titan Code social project, digital inclusion for underserved communities. You'd have full authority to build the team, set the goals, and design the training programs." Kayla stopped chewing her croissant. "Seriously?" "Completely serious. After seeing how you connect with people, how you explain complex ideas in simple ways, and considering your own story, you're the perfect person to lead this." Kayla stood up from her chair and, without thinking, hugged Victor tightly. "Sorry," she said, stepping back quickly. "It's just this is exactly the kind of project I always dreamed of doing." "So, do you accept?" "I accept, but I want full autonomy, no interference from upper management in the day-to-day." "Agreed. And a proper budget. You can't change the world on a discount. You'll have the budget you need. And I choose my team. No political recommendations." "Kayla, you're negotiating like I'm trying to trick you," Victor laughed. "It's your project. You're in charge." Kayla smiled, her eyes shining with excitement. "Then let's get to work. I've got a few ideas that will make Titan Code known for a lot more than just code." As they planned the project details over breakfast, Kayla felt she had finally found not just a job, but a purpose. And maybe, just maybe, something more. The first day back in New York was a whirlwind. Kayla had barely unpacked when Victor showed up at her office with a stack of papers and an excited smile. "Good morning, world-changing coordinator," he said, placing the documents on her desk. "I brought some resources for your dream project." Kayla looked at the documents and widened her eyes. "Victor, is this a budget or the GDP of a small country? It's what you need to make a real difference. No cuts, no administrative limitations. Are you sure the board approved this? Because if they find out I used company funds to teach programming to people they see as unfit, they'll want my head on a platter." "Let me worry about the board. Your job is to find talent where no one else is looking." Kayla spent the next 3 days outlining the structure of the Digital Invisibles project. The name came naturally. After all, she knew what it felt like to be invisible in a world that judged based on appearances. Her first hire was Jennifer Martinez, a former math teacher who had lost her job due to public school budget cuts. "Jennifer, have you ever taught programming?" Kayla asked during the interview. "Never. But I spent 10 years explaining algebra to teenagers who thought math was useless. If I can make a 15-year-old understand equations, I can learn how to teach code." "You're hired. When can you start?" "You didn't even ask about my technical qualifications." "Technical qualifications I can teach. Patience and the ability to connect with people. You can't teach that. And you clearly have both." The second hire was even more unexpected. Maria Rodriguez worked as a night cleaner in various tech companies, but always observed the code on the computer screens she cleaned. "Maria, Do you understand what you see on those screens? Kayla asked during an informal chat. A little. My son taught me the basics when he was learning in school. I got curious and started doing my own research online. And what do you find most interesting? How small mistakes can break huge things. It's like cleaning a house. If you skip a corner, eventually the whole place gets messy. Kayla smiled. That analogy was worth more than many degrees. The official launch of the project took place at a community center in Brooklyn. The company had been skeptical about the initiative at first, but Victor fully backed the idea, showing up in person for the event. Kayla stepped onto the small makeshift stage, looked at the 40 women in the room, and began. My name is Kayla, and 3 months ago, I was delivering coffee to people who treated me like furniture. Today, I'm here to say that talent doesn't have a zip code, doesn't need a fancy last name, and definitely doesn't require an expensive diploma to exist. The audience, initially shy, began to warm up. Do you know the difference between someone who can program and someone who can't? She asked. The first had the chance to learn. That's it. And today, we're here to create those chances. Kayla's speech was moving and practical. She explained how the program would work, what kinds of jobs would be available after training, and most importantly, that they didn't need to feel intimidated by technology. Programming is like cooking, she said. You take simple ingredients, follow a recipe, and in the end, you get something useful. The only difference is, if you mess up in programming, the computer won't explode. It just complains a little. The crowd laughed, and the ice was completely broken. After the event, Victor came up to Kayla. You were amazing. You got 40 women to believe they can change their lives in 2 hours. That's because they can. They just needed someone to say it out loud. In the following months, the project grew beyond all expectations. The first group of 10 women completed basic programming training, and 5 of them landed jobs at Titan Code or with partner companies. The response was so positive that even the harshest internal critics began to change their minds. Sarah Mitchell, who had once been hostile toward Kayla, reached out to volunteer as a mentor. During this time, Kayla and Victor started working even more closely. Planning meetings stretched late into the night, project discussions turned into talks about life and dreams, and the professional walls between them began to naturally fade away. One day, while visiting one of the communities supported by the project, Kayla met Amanda, a 19-year-old girl who was taking care of her 2 younger brothers while their mother worked 3 jobs. Kayla, can I ask you a question? Amanda said after class. Of course. How did you know you were good enough? I'm scared to try and find out. I don't have any talent for this. Kayla felt a tightness in her chest. It was like looking at herself a few years earlier. Amanda, want to know a secret? I never knew if I was good enough. I still don't. The difference is, I stopped letting fear make decisions for me. But what if I fail? What if you don't? Kayla smiled. Look, you're already raising 2 brothers, helping your mom, and still finding time to come here and learn programming. If that's not proof you can do anything, I don't know what is. Amanda smiled, and Kayla saw tears of hope in her eyes. That night, back at the office, Kayla and Victor were going over progress reports when she mentioned the meeting with Amanda. It's strange, she said. I see these girls and I remember exactly what it felt like to be invisible, to have talent but no one willing to give you a chance. And now you're creating those chances for other people, only because you believed in me first. Victor stopped typing and looked at her. Kayla, I didn't do anything special. I just saw what was already there. You did more than see it. You risked your reputation, stood up to the board, defended me when everyone else doubted. You changed my life, and you changed mine. Before you came along, I was just an executive focused on profit and efficiency. You showed me a company can be more than that. It can have purpose. They looked at each other in silence for a moment. The air between them was full of something that had been growing for months, something far beyond a professional partnership. Victor, Kayla began. I know, he said gently. I feel it too. Everything's going so well now. The project is working, the company is thriving, Miguel is happy in London, and you're afraid to mess it all up. I am, because this, she gestured between them, this is too important to risk. Victor stood up and walked over to the window. Kayla, can I ask you something? After all these months working together, have you ever seen me make a bad decision? Besides hiring me without checking my resume? She joked. No. Then trust me one more time. What's happening between us won't ruin anything. It'll only make everything better. Kayla looked at him, the man who believed in her when no one else did, who created opportunities for her dreams, and who was now offering something she hadn't even known she wanted until she started to feel it. Victor Langston, she said finally, you have an incredible ability to complicate my life in ways I didn't even know were possible. It's a special talent of mine, and apparently, I like it more than I should. They smiled at each other, and in that moment, both knew they had crossed a line they couldn't come back from. What had started as a professional partnership had grown into something much deeper, and for the first time, neither of them was afraid of what that meant. 6 months after the launch of the Digital Invisibles project, Titan Code was at its best. The social program had become a national example. International contracts were growing steadily, and the company had been named one of the most promising startups in the country. It was on a Tuesday morning when everything started to fall apart. Kayla was reviewing project reports when Derek came into her office with a worried look. Kayla, we've got a serious problem. The main system is showing intermittent instability. What kind of instability? Extreme slowness, random timeouts, and some modules just stop responding. The tech team's been trying to find the cause for 3 hours. Kayla closed her laptop immediately. Let's take a look. In the server room, chaos had taken over. 5 technicians were working frantically, trying to diagnose problems that came and went without any clear pattern. Has anyone changed anything in the system in the last 48 hours? Kayla asked. Nothing major, said Tom, the lead technician, just routine updates and security patches. Kayla studied the logs for a few minutes. Something didn't add up. These security patches, where did they come from? Tech Secure Solutions. They're our third-party security update provider. A chill ran down Kayla's spine. She knew that name. Tom, do you have the full history of those updates? Sure, it's all documented. As she reviewed the documents, Kayla felt her stomach turn. The updates had been implemented by a consultant named R. Matthews, the same last name as Robert Chen, the former employee she had exposed. I need to talk to Victor. Now. 15 minutes later, Victor and Kayla were locked in his office, going over evidence that confirmed her worst fears. Kayla, are you sure? Victor asked, reading through the documents for the 3rd time. Absolutely. Robert infiltrated TechSecure using a fake identity and planted malicious code disguised as security patches. It's clever, I'll give him that. But why now? He was fired months ago. Because today's Monday, and by Friday we have to deliver the final system for the Department of Defense contract. If we don't, we lose $15 million and our credibility in the international market. Victor ran a hand through his hair. How much time do we have? 3.5 days to clean the entire system, rewrite the compromised protocols, and make sure there aren't any ticking time bombs left in the code. Is that possible? Kayla gave a determined smile. Victor, have you ever seen me fail a technical challenge? Never. Then cancel all your plans. We're going to be living here for the next few days. The next 3 days were the most intense in Titan Code's history. Kayla and Victor set up an improvised command center in the conference room, working 18-hour shifts with the entire tech team. Found another one, Kayla shouted on the second night, pointing at the screen. Robert hid a malicious script inside the backup module. The guy is persistent, I have to admit. How many so far? Victor asked, handing her the 15th cup of coffee that night. 17 sabotage points identified and neutralized, but I have a feeling there's still more. Tom, who had been working for 36 straight hours, looked up. Kayla, how do you spot these things so fast? They look like legit code to us. It's like spotting typos in a text. When you really know the language, anything out of place jumps right out at you. By Thursday night, with just 12 hours left before the deadline, they had cleaned up 90% of the system. But something still wasn't right. The system was running, but not as efficiently as it should have. There's something we're missing, Kayla murmured, staring at the code for the 1000th time. Something subtle that's slowing things down, but not breaking the system completely. Victor, who was practically asleep on his feet, came closer. What if it's something in the core? Something that affects everything, but in a way that's almost invisible. Kayla stopped typing. Victor was right. The kernel. Robert modified the system's operating kernel. She dove into the deepest parts of the system, looking for microscopic changes that could be causing the widespread slowdowns. At 5 a.m. on Friday, just 1 hour before the final deadline, Kayla found the last piece of the puzzle. A seemingly harmless function that was causing millisecond delays in every operation. Individually insignificant, but collectively damaging. "Got it," she shouted, waking up half the office. 45 minutes later, the system was completely clean and running at full performance. They had made it. The board arrived at 9 o'clock to oversee the final project delivery. When the system passed all the stress tests and was officially approved by the Department of Defense, the room erupted in applause. "Congratulations, everyone," said James Morrison, the board chairman. "You didn't just save a contract, you saved the future of this company." As everyone celebrated, Victor quietly slipped away to the company's rooftop. Kayla followed a few minutes later. "Not going to celebrate with the team?" she asked, finding him leaning on the railing, watching the sunset over San Francisco. "I already did. When I saw you find that final bug and knew we'd made it. It was a team effort, Victor. Everyone worked hard." Victor turned to face her. "Kayla, you're the heart of all this. Without you, we wouldn't have survived Robert the first time, let alone now." "And you finally learned how to feel," she said softly. "The Victor I met months ago would never have spent 3 sleepless days alongside the tech team. You taught me that being a leader isn't just about giving orders from an ivory tower." The sun was setting, painting the sky with golden and rose tones. There was something in the air, a closeness that had been building for months, and now, after facing another crisis together, it felt inevitable. "Kayla," Victor said quietly, moving closer to her. "Victor," she whispered back. This time, when he leaned in to kiss her, she didn't pull away. The kiss was gentle at first, hesitant, as if neither of them could quite believe it was finally happening. Then it deepened, full of months of unresolved tension, mutual respect, and a tenderness that had grown through shared challenges. When they pulled apart, Kayla rested her forehead against his. "Well," she said with a playful smile, "took you long enough. I wanted to be sure you were ready." "Ready? Victor, I've been ready since Paris. I was just waiting for you to build up the courage to try again." Victor laughed. "So technically, I lost 6 months because I was too scared?" "Technically, yes. But considering you just saved the company with me, I'll let the delay slide." They stood there on the terrace, holding each other, watching the city wake up to another day. For the first time since they met, there were no crises to solve, no code to debug, no judgment to push through. Just the two of them, and the promise that no matter what challenges the future might bring, they'd face them together. "So," Kayla said, breaking the comfortable silence, "what do we do now?" "Now," Victor smiled. "Now we go home and sleep for 12 straight hours, and when we wake up, we start planning the rest of our lives." "I like the sound of that," she said and kissed him again, knowing she had finally found not just her place in the world, but the person she wanted to share it with. The following Monday, after the kiss on the terrace, Kayla walked into the office with a mix of nerves and determination. She knew things had changed between her and Victor, but also knew they needed to set clear boundaries. Victor was waiting for her with 2 cups of coffee and a hesitant smile. "Good morning," he said, handing her a cup. "Did you sleep well?" "Like a baby. Apparently, saving the company works better than chamomile tea," she replied, accepting the drink. "Victor, we need to talk. About last night? About what happens from here?" They sat on the couch in his office, keeping a respectful distance. "Kayla, I'd like to officially ask you to be my girlfriend," Victor said, getting right to the point. She smiled. "I accept, but with conditions. I'm listening. I want to keep being treated as a professional here. Our relationship can't affect the work environment. No favors, no setbacks. I completely agree. And if anyone questions my skills or my position because of us, you let me handle it. I don't want to be seen as the boss's girlfriend who needs protection." Victor laughed. "Kayla, after watching you stand up to Robert Chen, the national media, and now a complex cyber attack, The last thing I'd ever do is underestimate your ability to stand your ground. Great. Then it's settled. Professionally, we're colleagues. Personally, we're whatever this is. A relationship between two independent, smart people who occasionally save companies together? Perfect. I love that description. 2 weeks later, Victor called a special meeting with international investors to present the results from the first year of the Digital Invisibles project. Kayla had put together a detailed presentation, but she was still nervous. 15 executives from 8 different countries, she whispered to Derek before the meeting. What if they think digital inclusion is just a marketing gimmick? No way. The numbers speak for themselves. 42 women trained, 31 already employed, a 15% increase in local workforce diversity. Derek, did you memorize my presentation? I may have sneaked a look at your slides. You're going to do great. And she did. For 45 minutes, Kayla presented not just the project's data, but personal stories, practical examples, and a vision of how digital inclusion could transform the tech industry. Klaus Richter, the German investor she had met at the party, was the first to speak up. Ms. Thompson, this project is not only socially innovative, but it's also delivering impressive financial results. You've turned social responsibility into a competitive edge. Thank you, Mr. Richter. I believe doing good and making money don't have to be mutually exclusive. Yuki Tanaka, a Japanese investor, raised her hand. How do you plan to scale this model to other regions? We're developing a replicable framework that can be adapted to different cultures and local needs. The method is universal. Find invisible talent and give them visible opportunities. The meeting ended with 3 concrete proposals for international partnerships and an invitation for Kayla to present the project at the World Conference on Social Technology in Geneva. Victor was waiting for her in the hallway, beaming. How did it go? I think we just took the Digital Invisibles project international, she said, still processing what had happened. 3 days later, Titan Code was officially awarded Most Innovative Company in the Industry by the United States Technology Association. The ceremony was held in the Grand Ballroom at the Plaza Hotel in New York City, with CEOs, investors, and government officials in attendance. When Titan Code was announced as the winner, Victor went up to the stage to receive the award. But instead of giving the usual thank you speech, he did something unexpected. This award is not mine, he said into the microphone. I'd like to invite the person who truly transformed our company to the stage. Kayla Thompson, Innovation Coordinator at Titan Code. The audience applauded as Kayla, surprised and emotional, walked up to the stage. Victor handed her the microphone and stepped aside, letting her be the center of the moment. Kayla looked out at the audience of executives and took a deep breath. I was invisible for a long time, she began, her voice steady. Invisible as a student who dropped out of college. Invisible as a delivery girl you saw but never really looked at. Invisible as a woman in an industry dominated by men. The room was completely silent. Today, I'm here because someone chose to believe in what they didn't see first. My last name, my education, my appearance. He believed in my mind, and he discovered that talent has no zip code, no origin, and no standard look. She raised the award. This isn't just Titan Code's award. It belongs to all the invisible people still waiting for an opportunity. To the 42 women who left the Digital Invisibles project with a new career. To everyone who believes real innovation happens when we stop looking in the same old places and start seeing where we never looked before. The audience rose in a standing ovation that lasted 3 minutes. When Kayla came down from the stage, tears in her eyes but smiling, she was met with a warm hug. It was Miguel. Surprise, he said, holding her tight. You thought I'd missed the most important speech of my sister's life? Miguel, what are you doing here? Are you supposed to be in London? The incubator gave me a week off to visit family and to show you this. He pulled a tablet from his backpack. My educational software got approved for a pilot test in 50 American schools. Kayla's eyes widened. Really? Really? And guess what? They want me to work with the Digital Invisibles project to implement the software in the communities you're serving. Miguel, that's amazing. I learned from the best, he said, hugging her again. You taught me that dreaming isn't enough. You have to work for the dream. Across the ballroom, Victor watched the scene with a smile on his face. When Kayla looked his way, their eyes met and held for a long moment. They didn't need to say anything. The pride, the love, the mutual admiration, it was all there, clear as day. Later, during the cocktail reception, Miguel pulled Kayla aside. "So, you and the boss finally admitted you're in love? How do you know? Come on, sis, you two look at each other like you're the last two people on Earth. It's kind of obvious." Kayla laughed. "It's complicated, Miguel. Working together and dating at the same time. Kayla, you've spent your whole life complicating simple things. You respect each other, admire each other, work well together, and clearly love each other. Stop looking for problems that aren't there." "When did you get so wise?" "When my sister stopped delivering coffee and started giving speeches that make multimillionaires cry." They laughed together, and Kayla felt a sense of peace she hadn't felt in a long time. Her family was doing well. Her work had meaning. And for the first time in her life, she had found someone who saw her exactly as she was, and loved her for it. When Victor walked over at the end of the night, Miguel quietly stepped away with a wink. "Ready to go?" Victor asked. "Ready," she replied, lacing her fingers through his. As they walked out of the hotel and down the streets of Manhattan together, Kayla knew that no matter what challenges the future might bring, she had found not just her place in the world, but the right people to share it with. A year had passed since Titan Code's complete transformation, and Victor had planned something special to mark the date. On the Friday before the anniversary, he walked into Kayla's office with a mysterious invitation. "Special event on the company rooftop, tomorrow at 7 in the evening," he said, handing her an elegant envelope. "What kind of event?" Kayla asked, opening the invitation. "And why is it so formal? Usually you just show up and say, 'Let's go do something.'" "It's a tribute to the Digital Invisibles project. A year of success deserves a proper celebration." "Victor Langston planning a party?" She raised an eyebrow. "Are you okay? Did you hit your head?" "Very funny. Just be there, all right? And wear something nice." "Now I'm worried. You asking me to dress up must mean there are journalists involved, or you're planning something suspicious." Victor gave her a mysterious smile. "Trust me." On Saturday night, Kayla walked up to the rooftop, wearing a navy blue dress she had bought just for the occasion. She expected to find employees, maybe some investors, possibly even members of the press. Instead, she found the terrace decorated with soft lights, projections on the walls showing photos of meaningful moments from their journey together, and only one person waiting for her, Miguel, holding a tablet with a conspiratorial smile. "Miguel, what are you doing here? And where is everyone?" "Hi, sis," he said, clearly trying to contain his excitement. "I'm here to give you a gift for the company's anniversary." "What gift?" Miguel raised the tablet, showing a screen with flashing code. "Remember the first code you cracked here? Well, there's another one that needs your attention." Kayla looked around, confused. "Miguel, where's Victor? Where are the other employees? Where's the party?" "The party starts in a few minutes. But first, can you solve this code for me?" Kayla sighed and took the tablet. "All right, but if this is some kind of birthday prank, I'm throwing you off the rooftop." She looked at the screen and immediately recognized the pattern. It was similar to the first code she had solved at Titan Code, but with a different structure. Her fingers moved quickly over the virtual keyboard. That's when Victor appeared behind her. "Want to crack this one too?" he asked, his voice sounding a little nervous. "Victor, where have you been? And what's this about making me work during a party?" "Just decode the code, Kayla. Please." She turned her attention back to the screen, typing in the necessary command sequence. When she hit enter, the response appeared in big letters. "Will you marry me?" Kayla froze for a second, then started laughing. "Seriously, Victor?" she said, turning to face him. "Wouldn't it have been easier to just ask?" That's when she saw Victor kneeling, holding a small velvet box. Despite the obvious nerves, he kept a determined smile. "Kayla Thompson," he said, his voice slightly shaky, "you've changed my life in every possible way. You taught me that leadership is about people, not just numbers. You showed me that courage isn't about being fearless. It's doing the right thing, even when you're scared." Kayla felt tears forming in her eyes. "Victor, I want to keep writing this code with you, every day. I want to face bugs, solve impossible problems, and build something beautiful together. Forever. He opened the box, revealing a simple but elegant ring. So what do you say? Will you be my lifelong code partner? Kayla looked at Victor, then at Miguel, who was filming everything with the biggest smile in the world, then back at Victor. You know this is going to be a lot of work, right? She said through tears and laughter. I'm still going to correct your code, question your management decisions, and probably teach you things you should have known years ago. Wouldn't expect anything less. And I want to keep my last name. Thompson sounds strong for a future tech CEO. Victor laughed. Kayla Thompson Langston sounds even better. All right, she said, reaching out to help him up. I accept, but only because you had the creativity to propose using code. Victor placed the ring on her finger and kissed her, while Miguel clapped and shouted, Finally! I thought you two would never have the guts. That's when the terrace lights came on fully, revealing Titan Code employees, students from the Digital Invisibles project, Jessica, Derek, Tom, and even a few investors hiding behind columns and decorations. Everyone burst into applause and cheers. You all knew? Kayla asked, stunned. Everyone knew, Derek shouted. Victor planned this for weeks. And made us lie to you for days, added Jennifer Martinez. It was torture not telling you. The improvised party that followed was the best Kayla had ever experienced. There were no formal protocols, no rehearsed speeches, no corporate stiffness. Just people who genuinely cared about each other, celebrating a real moment of joy. Amanda, the young woman from the project who had completed her programming training, came over and gave Kayla a big hug. Miss Kayla, thank you for showing us that dreams don't have an expiration date. Thank you for reminding me why this work matters, Kayla replied, her voice full of emotion. Later, when the celebration was winding down and guests were starting to say their goodbyes, Victor and Kayla found themselves alone on the terrace, right where they had shared their first kiss. So, she said, admiring the ring on her hand, when did you decide you wanted to marry me? Honestly, the day you solved that first bit of code. Not because you were smart, but because you had the courage to try when everyone else had doubts. And I fell in love with you the day you stood up for me in front of Sarah. That's when I realized you weren't just my boss. You were someone who does the right thing, even when it's hard. Victor pulled her gently closer. So, Miss Thompson Langston, ready for the next challenge? I've always been ready, Mr. Langston. The question is, can you keep up? They laughed and kissed again, under the lights of the city that had witnessed their entire journey. From the delivery office to innovation leadership, from doubt to love, from invisibility to recognition, every step had brought them to this moment. It was the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. But this time, they knew exactly who they were and where they were going. Together. 6 months after the engagement, on a sunny October morning, Titan Code's Innovation Center was transformed into a wedding venue. Kayla had insisted on getting married at the place where her life had changed, and Victor couldn't have agreed more. Are you sure you want to get married where you work? Jessica had asked during the preparations. Isn't that a little strange? Jess, this is where I found out who I really am. It's where I met the love of my life. Why would I get married anywhere else? Kayla replied as she adjusted flowers in the makeshift garden. The outdoor ceremony was intimate and warm. Around 80 guests were there, Titan Code employees, graduates from the Digital Invisibles project, a few investors who had become close friends, and even Klaus Richter had flown in from Germany just for the event. Miguel had taken on the technical side of the ceremony, setting up a live stream with interactive features. Kayla, look at this, he said, showing her the tablet during final preparations. Online viewers can send virtual hearts that float across the screen, and there's a real-time like button for the special moments. Miguel, this is a wedding, not a YouTube show, Kayla laughed. Why can't it be both? You're famous now. People from 15 countries want to watch. When the time came, Kayla walked down the aisle in a simple but elegant dress, holding a bouquet of sunflowers. Victor waited with a smile that lit up his whole face. The officiant, a kind gentleman named Robert Williams, opened the ceremony with words that perfectly captured the heart of the couple. We're here today to celebrate the union of two people who've proven that true love grows when built on mutual respect, admiration, and shared purpose. During the vows, Victor spoke first. Kayla, you taught me that leadership isn't about being at the top. It's about lifting up the people around you. I promise to be your partner in all of life's codes, to fix bugs together, and always appreciate the incredible woman you are. Kayla held back tears as she replied, Victor, you gave me something I didn't even know I needed. The chance to be seen for who I truly am, not just for how I appear. I promise to keep challenging you, supporting you, and occasionally correcting your code for the rest of our lives. The guests chuckled, and even the officiant smiled. When they were declared husband and wife, Miguel triggered a virtual heart shower on the live stream, and the guests broke into applause. 2 weeks after their honeymoon in Napa Valley, Kayla and Victor were relaxing at home on a Sunday evening. Kayla was on the couch, reviewing proposals to expand the Digital Invisibles project, when Victor sat beside her with a question he'd been holding on to for months. Kayla, can I ask you something I've always wanted to know? Sure, as long as it's not about my secret coffee recipe. Do you remember the $100,000 I gave you that first day? Kayla looked up from the documents. As if I could forget. It was the first real money I'd ever seen in my life. What did you do with it? Kayla set the papers aside and settled deeper into the couch. Well, first I set aside $20,000 and opened a special account for Miguel's college fund. I want to make sure he never has to go through what I did, having to choose between education and family. Victor felt a tightness in his chest. And the rest? $40,000 went to pay off debts we'd had since our parents died. Hospital bills, loans, credit cards, you know how it is. Kayla? The other $40,000? She smiled. $20,000 went into savings as an emergency fund, and $20,000 I used to buy a decent car and some work clothes. Oh, and I paid 6 months of rent in advance for Miguel and me. Victor stayed quiet for a moment, taking in the responsibility and maturity with which she had used the money. You used almost everything to take care of your family and get stable. What did you expect, that I'd spend it all on expensive shoes? She laughed. Victor, when you grow up counting every penny, you learn to value stability more than luxury. He pulled her into an embrace. I love you even more for that. Good thing, because now you're legally stuck with me. A few weeks later, Kayla received a phone call that changed her perspective on the impact of her work. Miss Thompson-Langston, said a formal voice on the other end. This is Dr. Margaret Foster from Harvard University. I'd like to invite you to receive an honorary doctorate in applied social sciences. Kayla nearly spit out her coffee. Sorry, could you repeat that? Your work in digital inclusion and developing marginalized talent has revolutionized the way we view corporate social responsibility. We want to officially honor you. In the following months, similar invitations arrived from Stanford, MIT, and even Oxford University. Kayla had become a global reference in social technology. Victor, in the meantime, was transforming his leadership approach. He implemented flexible work policies, created internal mentoring programs, and set ambitious but achievable diversity goals. During a leadership meeting, Derek commented, Victor, you've completely changed since Kayla arrived. You're more human. Derek, I've always been human. I was just forgetting how to show it. By the end of the year, Kayla was invited to speak at the World Economic Forum in Davos. During her talk on inclusive technology, the future of business, she closed with words that became famous. For years, I heard people say I needed privilege to succeed. Today, I'm here to say they were wrong. I didn't need privilege. I needed opportunity and respect. When you give those two things to someone, no matter where they come from, they can change the world. The audience of world leaders rose to their feet in applause, and her words made headlines around the globe. After the presentation, Victor was waiting backstage with a bouquet of sunflowers. Ready to go home, Dr. Thompson-Langston? He asked, using the new title she would soon receive from Harvard. Ready. But first, she kissed him deeply. Thank you for believing in me before I even believed in myself. And I needed you to understand what it means to love truly, he whispered against her lips. They laughed together, holding each other, when they heard a familiar tune playing behind them. It was Miguel, who had shown up at the event carrying a small robot he had programmed himself. "Surprise," he shouted. "I programmed the robot to play the song from your wedding every time you kiss for more than 5 seconds. "Miguel?" Kayla laughed. "How did you get here?" "A flight funded by my new educational robotics startup, which, by the way, just signed an international partnership." "Really?" "Really. And guess who's going to be my first corporate client?" Victor and Kayla looked at each other and said at the same time, "Titan Code." "Exactly," Miguel grinned. "The family that codes together stays together." As the three of them laughed and hugged, Kayla reflected on the incredible journey that had brought them there. It had all started with a piece of code no one could solve, and now it ended with another kind of code, not from a computer, but from love, respect, and family. What did you think of Kayla and Victor's story? Leave your opinion in the comments. Rate the story from 0 to 10. What score would you give? Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to follow all our stories. And don't forget, check out more inspiring stories by clicking here on the final screen.